All right, guys, this is going to be episode 1 for my replay review series I'm going to be doing just to get some good tips out. So people have, when they ask me what they can do to improve, they have something I could throw back to them for them to watch on. If you don't know me, I am a 2070 peak player. I play this game a lot. I play this game to try and be as smart as I can. I'm not really a mechanical player. Most of what I do is just play as smart as possible whenever I can. And so I'm just going to try and share some of that with you guys. Today, we've got a replay from one of my friends. I believe at the time of this game, he was sitting around 1740, maybe 1750, sitting in GC3 area. We're just going to look over this. I haven't seen this replay yet, but I'm just going to look over this, give it a brief rundown, just show you guys some things you can do to avoid making mistakes and play well for your teammate. There's obviously a solo queue game, and just be a good teammate and a good player. That'll help you move up the ranks. All right, let's hop into it. All right, this is going to be the first thing we're going to talk about right here. This play is a little ambitious. I assume he's trying to shoot into that top left corner. But there's a couple of reasons why I think this is kind of a poor shot. Firstly, you have a lot of time to settle this. This is a free catch. Even being on low boost here, this is sideways enough where you can pick this up and do an instant flick. And the reason why I think that's pretty strong is because firstly, it slows the play down a little bit, which allows your teammate a little bit more time. Secondly, it puts the defense under a little bit more strain if it's possessed to you, because they have to choose between defending a flick where you can place it pretty much anywhere and having to commit onto you. The third reason why I think this is pretty risky, pretty dangerous play to go for is if you miss this shot and you hit it really hard, but you miss it and it hits the backboard, it's going to bounce back at your net pretty instantaneously, and you're just going to concede because both you and your teammate are pushed all the way up. Both of them are back with boost, and this bang, if you put it to the backboard, will just bounce off and not be a threat for them, and they'll just be able to reconvert and turn that back on you. So when your teammate's committed like this and you're committing as the second man, you have to be aware that any attacks that you do won't have that underlying safety net behind you. So you have to be smart with your attacks. And on top of that, just catching this ball just makes this more threatening. This hit right here, I understand the idea behind it. If you get that slot, maybe it works out. Even then, they still probably cover it. So here is a time where you really want to slow down the play and just take your sweet time. I don't think this is going to be a position they can convert on now because they double committed. But in a lot of other situations, that might end up being a goal back on your field, and you really just want to avoid that as much as you can. All right, we got our second play we're going to talk about here. This is the play that ends up happening. Ball gets taken up. Player flips out, unable to touch it. Teammate gets left in a 1v2, or more accurately, a 1v1 because of how it gets played. But let's talk about how we can avoid this and make this a better situation. So right here, this ball is threatening to be hit towards your side. And maybe he'll settle it, maybe he'll air dribble it, whatever. Regardless, the best way to defend this is to turn back and shadow this in the air. You could also stay on the ground if you wanted. It's a little less threatening because driving up on the wall like this basically scares them into jumping and playing this down the field. But if instead of jumping straight out parallel to the wall like this, like he does here, if you can tilt your car to be facing backwards so that when you fly, you go back towards your side of the field and threaten that ball all the way down the field, it becomes a lot safer. You're back for defense better, and you're just applying more pressure to this ball. This is a mistake I see happen a lot in twos, especially because in threes, this isn't actually the worst challenge to do because you're just trying to force quickly. You're not trying to clog up the lanes. But in twos, you want to stay with this because if you get beat to this ball like this and you don't get a touch, you're left pretty low on boost and you're out of position, leaving your teammate to effectively die. In a higher lobby, this is going to get converted significantly higher, like a significantly higher percentage. And it's just something you really need to make sure is not happening to you in your games, because you're just leaving your teammate to die. I would rather you even not jump on this wall, drive all the way down to the ground, and then jump, than jump here and miss this. Like, this is a high risk jump. All right. Another thing I want to talk about here. This is less of a mistake. This isn't really a mistake, so I can't be too harsh on this for calling this out. However, this is a super viable opportunity that, for me as a player, the way I play, presents itself pretty regularly, and I think it's a pretty powerful tool to be able to see. When this ball ends up like this above this player, where they can't do anything and they're stuck in this perpetual side flip, right now you have full momentum towards this play. This is a very, very easy demo, because this player that's defending this just got fully stuck in the air by doing a 0 momentum side flip. They can't dodge. There's nothing they can do. So you can go and kill that player. And while it does overcommit you a little bit, I think, at least in my experience, the pressure it applies of having them losing all of their boost and a player usually makes up for the loss or the overcommit of your presence. Your team here should be able to follow this up if you kill him. He might not be able to beat whatever his name is, Stocktane back there, but he can at least get a 50 or move into Shadow. So I think this is a play that should pretty regularly be looked for, in my opinion. Just anytime a player gets frozen like this in the air or flips like this, it's always a free kill if you're fast enough, if you react fast enough. Just something that I do. If you don't do it, that's like fine. It's a fine thing, but it's an improvement that can be made onto a play. All right, let's talk about this goal. So this goal is interesting because there is you could have pressured out for this, but honestly, the fact that recognizing that this is a pass here and you're unable to play for it is pretty strong. And I feel like at this level of gameplay that you're at, this is a fine play. Now, the one thing is, if you can do that thing I was talking about earlier, where you shadow this on the wall backwards and kind of move back in the field towards it, it's going to make the second player that's actually taking the shot hesitate a lot more, because you're floating up. And even though you don't touch the ball, you don't touch the player, you don't do anything in the play other than just float near it, it relieves a lot of pressure from your teammate, because it forces the opponents to be scared and make a worse shot and a tighter time margin. So I don't think it's a bad idea to shadow this in the air and just apply more pressure. Pressure is always a good thing in twos, as long as you can afford to do it. And in this position, you absolutely can as first man. But that being said, I don't think this is the worst play ever. In the heat of the moment, it's really hard to make a decision like that. And turning back and not overcommitting yourself again like you did earlier is a pretty decent strategy. Your teammate just gets left in basically a 1v2 and gets scored on. So you can't really put any blame on your teammate either. You're hoping they could pull out a save, but unfortunately they could not. So this is a little bit your fault, because you should be able to find a way to apply pressure onto the play. But at the end of the day, this is just one of those goals where they make a good play on you and it just catches you off guard. So not a goal to be too upset over, but something that definitely could be prevented with enough time. All right, let's talk about this. why this is ending up being a goal. So we gotta discuss this. This is a really important play. That happens a lot. It's super important. So there are a couple options with this play that you can make. This is a pretty panicky option, and this is not an option that keeps you from getting scored on. What you did here. So this is just at the end of the day not really. It's just bad. It's just bad. Now the two options for play are really safe, but not as good overall, and less safe, but obviously the better play. So the first play is you can fly under this ball, and you can hit it as high as you can, as hard as you can to your backboard. You can slam that shit. And from this player's POV here, if you slam this shit to the backboard, it's maybe playable for him, but it's a really hard shot, and it's pretty much undefendable, or unscorable, I mean. And it's pretty reliable for you. You're at GC3, you've been hitting power touches all this time. This touch should not be an issue. You should be able to hit this to the backboard, to the center, any day of the week. Now the second play that is what you should do, but I understand if you don't want to do it because it's a little scary and it's a little mechanically intensive. What you should do is fly under this and hit it with a stagger touch or a kill touch. And basically what that does is it dampens the speed of the ball and it keeps the trajectory of it. So your goal is to slow down this ball, hit it up a little higher, but slow it down, and then turn and catch it on the backboard. It sounds really complicated, but it's not as hard as it sounds or looks. But it does take some practice. So it's definitely something to rep, just being able to, when the ball's coming back at your net like this, catch the ball on your backboard. Just flying up, meeting the ball, taking the ball really light, and then catching it on the backboard. It's super important. It allows you to maintain possession of the ball, and it keeps them from having any threatening attempts at all. So that's what you should do here. It's a little mechanically scary when you're last back. I get it, why you don't want to go for it. But it absolutely needs to eventually end up in your arsenal. But this hit is obviously, I'm sure you knew this when you did it, just a bad hit, and you landed poor too. So, just unfortunate. Okay. This is a kickoff immediately after the goal. This player drives by this ball and goes to fight your teammate for boost. This is your sign to sprint at that shit. Like, go to that ball right now. Catch it, or bang it, or do something. Put pressure on that. This is if you're fast enough, this is an open net effectively. If you can convert this, you have 44 boost. There is no one on their side, and the ball is open in front of you. Just drive at the ball, either power shot it on net if you're confident enough, or catch it and flick it over the last guy. Either one will work. Do not wait for this player to get this boost. If this player gets this boost, he now has the timing on the ball, which is actively what happens. He gets the boost from your teammate, and now he has the ball because you didn't go out there and play that. I understand. It's pretty far out, and your teammate's going for boost, and it's pretty scary. It looks like you're committing as last man, but the truth is you are committing as last man, but because there's no threat on it, it has to happen. Like, it's not dangerous. There's no threat on this. You're not going to get beat by someone. You have to go for this. You have to apply that pressure because that pressure forces them back, and it wins your team resources. It wins your team space. It wins your team momentum and speed. You have to go for this. This is mandatory. I'm going to make this video really short, just those couple segments. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. If in the future you want me to go over the whole thing, I'm super down to. I love covering the entire video or the entire replay. In this one, I chose not to just because It's the first episode. I don't want to make it too long. If you guys want longer ones, I'm always down to make longer videos, cover the whole thing. I just don't want to do too much from a first video. So I'm just going to cover a couple of the really huge key mistakes that you can kind of learn from. As always, if you want one of your replays in one of these videos, join my Discord. I have a channel where you could just post your replay files. I will replay review as many of them as I can, as often as I can. If you want me to make these longer, if you want to make them shorter, however you want to do it, just let me know in the comments. I'm down to make them however you want me to make them. This is mostly just a test video, basically. I appreciate you all sticking around, and I will see you in the next one.